welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKRadio.com, and thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Bishop Bowser, and we have an exciting show for you today, and everyone should be listening. So right now, I want you to text or call 7 people. You can tag them on Facebook, Twitter them, whatever you need to do, but get the word out right now that this is going to be a good show, and everybody should be listening on KBLKRadio.com. Now, I want you to at least try to get 7 people to listen to this show. So you got time, so let's get to it right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning we have a good one for you because we have Sergeant Benjamin Kelso with the San Diego Police Department, but he's also the president of the San Diego Black Police Officers Association. We also have Mr. Michael Begovich, the Deputy Public Defender, and we have Joanne Fields with us. And our topic for this morning is Proposition 47 and its impact on the criminal justice system. And if you want to call in and join the conversation, you can call in at 619-919-4745. Okay, maybe you're looking for a pen and you want to write it down and you're trying to figure this out. So I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it a little bit slower. So hurry and grab that pen, pencil, or whatever you need to do, or type it, text it in. But here's the number again if you want to call in and join the conversation, 619-919-4745. All right? So call in and join the conversation as we begin this show. But before we get into interviews with our guests, I have a few things I want to share with you. And one is I have a quote for the week that is from Derek R. Adet. And here's the quote, and I quote, "Never be silent. Make your opinions known and do not fear retribution for speaking your mind. The only ones who will aggressively try to silence you are the ones who do not respect the liberties and rights of the individual. Those people deserve our contempt. And when you draw them out of the shadows by exercising your civil right to freedom and speech, they will expose themselves for what they truly are." And that is the end of quote. So now we want to move into our interview here with our group here. And we have an interesting guest here. We have Sergeant Kelso. We have Mr. Begovich. I know I said that wrong. And Miss Joanne Fields. And we want to talk about Prop 47. And California implemented reforms that significantly scaled back overly harsh penalties for nonviolent offenses that had crowded state prisons and cost taxpayers billions of dollars. Despite repeated assertions by some in law enforcement that each of these reforms would lead to a spike in crime, the data tells another story. Crime rates have continued to decline over the past 15 years, and California, by 2014, had the lowest violent rate since 1967. 80% of cases affected by Prop 47 are drug possession cases for personal usage. Offenders will be held accountable without being locked up for lengthy sentences or saddled with the lifelong barriers that accompany a felon conviction. So now, I want to get right into our guests, and I want to start with Mr. Begovich. Did I pronounce that right? I always get stuff.
Yes, sir, Bishop. You're right on point.
All right. So tell us about a little of the work that you do.
We have myself and 4 other people, a Prop 47 team in our office, and basically we handle all of the Prop 47 matters that come up in our community.
Okay. Mr. Sergeant Kelso, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Good morning, Bishop. I am the president of the San Diego Black Police Officers Association. We are a fraternal group of law enforcement supporters.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them work for San Diego PD and various law enforcement agencies in the county.
Right.
Essentially to work with the community and try to bridge the gap between law enforcement and community through community outreach.
All right. Miss Joanne Fields, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Good morning. Well, in this case, for the San Diego Prop 47 Justice and Resource Fair, I am the event coordinator for this event, and it's in collaboration with the ACLU, Second Chance, San Diego Clean Slate Clinic, San Diego Public Defenders with Michael and his leadership team, SDOP, quite a few organizations. So I wear quite a few hats in the community, but for this event, I am the event coordinator. Thank you.
All right. So one of the things, and I know some of you probably been following Prop 47 more than others, but I want to ask each of you, what is your opinion about Prop 47? And we can begin with you, Mr. Begovich.
Prop 47 is a process for redemption, transformation, and hope. I have seen tremendous change in some of the clients that have walked in through the door. They've gotten jobs, they've gotten drug rehabilitation, they've just totally turned their lives around. There's been some really nice success stories.
Right.
And we have been helping a number of people get felony convictions now reduced and reclassified to misdemeanors. And when you have no longer a felony on your record, when you go to get a job and it's only a misdemeanor,
right,
your chance of getting a job is so much better.
For sure, for sure. So we're going to go ahead and, okay, we're going to wait a minute before we take a break. Well, we got about a minute left. Sergeant Kessel, if you can in that minute tell us what your opinion about Prop 47, wherever you leave out, we can pick back up when we come back from our break.
You know, I think Proposition 47 is definitely a step to try to counterbalance the mass incarceration that we've seen that impacts people in communities of color, especially in the United States. I think the jury is still out on its effectiveness, but it serves promise, and it's a way to try to counterbalance what we've seen that has been going on over the last several decades with policing, especially with tough on crime laws and things like that.
All right, well, thank you for that, and you did it within a minute. so we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back in a couple of minutes, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, San Diego.
All right, welcome back to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com, and we want to continue to move right back into our interview, and I want to ask Ms. Joanne Fields, what is your opinion about Prop 47?
I think this proposition is good for the community. It is giving a second chance for those that may have made a mistake. And usually it's because of things that they can't control, where they need substance abuse intervention and prevention. And with savings from keeping people out of jail and redirecting the funds in education and prevention programs will help the community in more ways than one, and increase the quality of life for this population. Because as we know, if you keep putting people in jail, that still doesn't resolve the issue, the root problem of the issue. So it is a promising proposition, but like Sergeant Kelso said, we still have to see the results. But I think there is major progress in this approach. And on August 20th, we have this free event that in collaboration with the ACLU and Second Chance and a number of community organizations, where we will be offering free legal services so that this population can apply and hopefully benefit Proposition 47.
So when is this?
This is on next Saturday, August 20th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Second Chance, and they're located at 6145 Imperial Avenue, 92114 in southeastern San Diego. More information can be obtained on our website at aclusandiego.org Prop 47. We have a lot of advertisement on social media and, of course, on your talk show. So thank you, Bishop Bowser, for allowing us this opportunity so that we can spread the word and get more people involved and educated on Prop 47, because it's still fairly new and people are still learning how can they benefit from this proposition. That's why I'm grateful Michael's here, that he knows all the legal and technical words so that we can have this educational piece on your show.
Right. Now, Mr. Begovic, can you share with us some of the challenges and successes of Prop 47 thus far, if you have any?
Be my pleasure. Let me give a little history to put this in context. In the 1990s, there was something called 3 strikes and you're out. San Diego County was the first county to have a team approach, a collaborative approach. We had 3 specialized judges, 3 specialized prosecutors, 3 specialized public defenders. I was on that team.
Okay.
I had a client in downtown San Diego. In his right front pants pocket, he had 1/10 of a gram of cocaine base. We went to trial under the 3 strikes law. He received 27 years to life in the Department of Corrections. That is more than what first-degree murder is.
Yes.
So at the time, that was more than the clients that I was representing for murder could get.
Right.
Now today, under Proposition 47, which was effective 5 November of 2014, passed by 60% of our voters, that's a misdemeanor. It can only be filed as a misdemeanor. So you can see there's been a big change.
Right.
We had AB 109, which reduced some low-level felonies in the sense that you would serve your time in the county jail versus prison. Prop 36 in 2012, which said that your 3rd strike must be a strike. It couldn't be a possession of controlled substance for
Right.
personal use to get 25 to life. And then we have Prop 47. So Prop 47 does 2 key things. If you have possession of drugs for personal use and theft-related crimes under $950, the value of what you took is under $950, those now going forward can only be misdemeanors. And if you served your time for any of those crimes as a felony before Prop 47 became law, you could get us to help you file a petition and reduce your sentence. So here's an example. I've been doing this tour of duty now for about 7 months, and one of the things when I started was to focus in on individuals who might be in our state prison system for no reason at all.
Gotcha. Right.
And I found one person who had prior strikes, and he was doing a 7-year and 8-month term.
Okay.
And 3 of his theft-related crimes that got him this 7-year, 8-month term were all second-degree burglaries. So I dug deeper, pulled some records, our file, the court file. It was a theft from Home Depot, Target, and Walmart, each one. One of them was about $700, one of them was about $120, one of them was about $220. That type of theft where we can prove the value, he's sitting in prison for nothing. We moved on that rapidly. He got out of prison. We knocked 4.5 years of actual prison time out of his sentence.
Wow.
They told him to roll up. He had no clue what the heck was going on. They just said, there's some order here from a judge. You're going home. And then we were able to, chat with him. His grandmother picked him up and was driving him home, and, he called our head paralegal at the time. So that's some of the stuff that we've been doing.
Wow. And what would you say some of the challenges are?
One of the challenges is making sure that we've gone through everything, that nobody's sitting in custody that doesn't need to be sitting in custody. Second challenge, and this is the bigger challenge right now, is a lot of people who have served their sentence don't know if they're eligible for Prop 47. There's a lot of miscommunication and a lack of understanding that we can see in the community. So that's why this event coming this Saturday is such a good thing. We're going to have volunteer lawyers from the Public Defender's Office and also from the private bar to try to help people out to screen their cases to see if they can get Prop 47. Because even if you served your time, even if you're out of custody, but you served your time, we might be able to get some felonies that you had dropped down to misdemeanors.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. So, Sergeant Kelso, what is your opinion about criminal? When we talk about criminal justice reform, I know you spoke a little bit about the Prop 47, but what is your opinion about criminal justice reform? How you feel about that? Do you support it, or do you don't, or you don't? Because when I see, like, not so much Black Police Officers Association, but like police officer associations, district attorney association, the chiefs association, police chief association, sheriff association, all the different law enforcement associations, they lobby heavily and strongly in Sacramento against anything that we try to bring in legislation to reform the criminal justice system. And it's almost like, they just want to keep people locked up and in jail and so on. So as far as being a part of the Black Police Officers Association, do you support criminal justice reform, or do you oppose it? Or are you on board with these guys, and why all the opposition?
Well, yeah, you have to understand a couple things. First of all, as a member of the Black Police Officers Association in San Diego, a sub-member of a larger group of Black law enforcement officers called the National Black Police Officers Association, we certainly advocate for criminal justice reform, and we support it. To speak to the larger issue where other law enforcement organizations and agencies staunchly oppose any criminal justice reform, I think that relates more to change. And change is difficult to come by, and it's very slow in terms of process. And you have to understand that there's a lot of things that go into bringing us where we are here today. All right. One of I think the biggest things is measures of effectiveness, and you brought it up. You talked about how crime rates had increasingly lowered over those years of tough on crime laws.
Right.
All right. So that became the measure of success in law enforcement is, well, hey, our tough on crime stances are making crime go down. If you change something here, crime could go up. And then what are we going to do? What's our issue there? Right? So I really kind of think that we're going to have to really assess what our goals are in law enforcement, and more importantly, what our measures are for success. Because right now our measures of success are arrest rates and crime rates. All right, and when you do that, well, the incentive is to arrest more people.
Right.
That makes crime go down. I don't know if that's really what makes crime go down or not, but that's the way it appears.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I know the people that I've looked at some research and some studies and things like that, and I know one of the conclusions is that there's no common denominator between crime rates going down and in prisons going up, because a lot of people believe, like you just saying, some people in law enforcement believe that, if you're hard on tough on crime and lock these criminals up, then crime rates go down. But we found that crime rates go up and down, and there's no
It's a cycle
between the two to really prove that point. I think a lot of times that's what people get stuck on, along with the money, the narratives, that they place within the prison system and so on, because they make a lot of money in that.
Oh, that's a really huge point right there too. The corporatism of crime.
Exactly. And I forget who said it. Years ago, a politician said that, to fight crime, you have to fight poverty. And a lot of times that's what people tend to leave out when we talk about crime, is dealing with the poverty elements in our community and so on. And so, and a study has been done, when you look at in communities of color and see like Black and brown folks and Asians, when you look at the crime rates in our community and then you look at crime rates in the white community, if those communities have the same level of poverty, sometimes even in a white community, crime is even higher when you're at the same level of poverty. So we know that poverty is an issue that we most definitely have to tackle and deal with when it comes to crime. And a lot of times folks don't want to address and deal with the poverty issue. And then you have a lot of other issues that involve like trauma and so on. So let me ask you another question. Does the Black Police Officers Association and the Police Officers Association have the same goals?
Well, yes and no. There are a lot of things that being because the BPOA is a subset organization of the POA.
Okay.
So naturally,
You said subset. I almost thought you were talking about gangs. Subset.
a sub-organization within, yes.
But some people say they're gangs.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and I'm not denying that. Okay.
All right.
But so yeah, there certainly are some things that we are on the same page with, especially when it deals with law enforcement. The POA is vital in terms of advocating for pay and benefits and things like that for law enforcement officers. That's important. That's important personally
Right.
to me as an individual, and it's important to future law enforcement officers coming in. I can tell you that the pay and benefits for police officers in San Diego is not on par with others in the state. All right, to be the
Right.
second largest city in the state. All right, but we are certainly short a lot of positions, and one of the reasons why we're so short is the pay and benefits. So the POA is vital on that.
Gotcha.
The BPOA, however, works from a community relations piece. It's a different
Gotcha.
set of goals and objectives in that regard. All right, and the POA, their function isn't necessarily as specific and targeted as the BPOA is. Right, we come at the position of being connected to specifically the black community,
Right.
and dealing with them to try to be that bridge. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of negative imagery. And lack of conversation and mutual understanding sometimes between communities of color and law enforcement, and the BPOA is one of those organizations that tries to mend that bridge and mend that fence. All right, because quite frankly, our members come out of communities like this.
Right, exactly. So, and looking at that, when you talk about that and the differences and things like that, as far as what Black Police Officers Association does versus the Police Officers Association, how do we bridge that gap when we're looking at law enforcement? And I know there's some issues you're not going to be able to address because you're still within law enforcement, but whatever you can address, most definitely I want to hear it. Because when I look at on the 7th floor where you have the chiefs, assistant chiefs, and so on, I don't see no persons of color. I see all whites there, and I don't know if they can really, from what I'm observing so far, they're not really making that connect with the black community or communities of color per se. And when you talk about bridging that gap, what role do you play in that, and how can we involve you more? Because the only way we're going to really see change within law enforcement, the sense of understanding criminal justice reform and some of the things that we're dealing with, is that they have to really make that connect and understand our communities. And I don't see right now that they understand that.
Well, I think the BPOA operates from a grassroots level. We're not operating from a policy level. That's a level that is reserved for police executives, the chief of police, and the decision makers in that regard. They don't influence the BPOA's activities at the grassroots level. We're out here having the conversations with the people on the street,
Right.
directly impacting with them, spending our off time, right, back here in the community, trying to serve in other ways. It has to be about more than just arresting people and taking people out of the
Yes.
community.
Yeah.
You got to somehow give back into the community as
Thank
well.
you.
That's a BPOA role, all right, which is not necessarily the same role of the other organizations like a POA
Right.
or something to that effect. It's about trying to make change in small incremental ways, and about really trying to humanize law enforcement. Our members. The difference between maybe someone in the BPOA and someone that is not is that not only do we live in these communities, but our families are here too and
Right.
are impacted by law enforcement in a lot of
Exactly.
negative ways. And it's not a secret. It shouldn't be a secret to anyone that historically the black community has had a long-term negative relationship to law enforcement. I mean, I grew up, my parents told me they didn't want me to be in law enforcement. They said, let somebody else's child go be a policeman.
Right.
That was what my father told me. He just, don't do that. Go do something
Right.
else. So,
Nope,
but there's another part of it too that's important. If you want to make change, maybe you got to be a part of the solution. You got to be on the inside. You got to be someone that can
Exactly,
that can
yeah,
try
absolutely,
to
yeah.
advocate
I agree
for
with
change
that.
within. And like I told you, change is very difficult to come by. It's very slow. All
Absolutely.
right? And we're going to have to rethink a lot of our positions on everything. All right?
Exactly.
And I think one of the things that makes the BPOA so vital is that we're open-minded to the conversation.
And I appreciate that. So, Mr. Begovich, many say that Prop 47 did not change where most people convicted of low-level offenses would be managed, nor did it diminish the flexibility or resources counties have to hold people accountable for low-level offenses and to provide prevention services, including mental health care and drug treatment. Do you agree or disagree with that?
This is the year statutorily when the money is supposed to come in, and the money is supposed to come in to go to three sources.
Okay.
To give mental health treatment to people, to give drug rehab treatment for people, and also there's money for the Crime Victims Fund to help crime victims. And that's where we're going to see, how much money comes in so that, we can really start to help people to give the services. So, for example, if someone who has been committing, a lot of shoplifting, and he or she is going into the store and essentially buying food, and, maybe they were homeless for a time, often they have a bad substance abuse problem. And they need residential drug treatment. That would be a good thing for them. And then, unfortunately, our population that we see forensically, a lot of them have an Axis I disorder. That's bad mental health problems. Well, those are diseases. Those are diseases that often can respond to medication. And if you take the drug abuse out of it, if you take the mental illness problems, if those get managed, you're going to see the crime stop for those things.
So,
Absolutely.
if I'm hearing that correctly, then the basis of that is essentially by decriminalizing or lowering the penalties for drug abuse and mental health related issues, by taking those out of the criminal arena and putting them in the health arena, we will therefore see a lowering of crime rates that affects those things.
Yes, sir. That's the intent of the initiative, and there's a lot of data that backs that up. Drug abuse, the American Medical Association for many years has said that is a disease. It's just like diabetes. It's just like skin cancer. It is a disease. And, Sergeant Kelso, you've probably interviewed enough people, out on the streets to know this as well as I know it, that the people that have a lot of these drug problems, they don't want to have these drug problems, but they can't stop.
Exactly.
And our jails shouldn't be this, turnstile where you come in, you do some time for something minor, maybe they medicate you a little bit for your Axis I disorder, and then you've stopped drinking and taking the street drugs. But if you don't get that type of ongoing care, you're going to go back out and self-medicate again, and then be hungry again, and then do something stupid. And then you become our client again.
One of the funny things, I think, in the interim of that, while people are struggling to deal with addiction issues, is the criminality that results as a subset of that. To be able to afford that habit, there's crime that takes place. There's theft crimes and other things. And I think that's probably where you see a lot of resistance at executive level of law enforcement, because we don't want to see any crime go up. Right. Because when we see crime go up, that impacts,
But it seemed like that, because as I was listening, the thought that kept coming to my mind, especially when you talk about disease and sickness and things like that, it would seem like folks, in the executive level would understand that we're not dealing with a public safety issue, but more like a public health issue, and start shifting our thinking that way to look at it more like a public. Because when we think about public safety, we got to lock people up. All we can do is write them citations, and they go back and commit another crime. They go back again, and they're looking at but we got to get these guys off the street. It's unsafe for them and for everybody else. They need help, but they don't think in terms of it's a public health issue, and we need to get some treatment. We need to get some help for these guys. We need to bring resources in, and so on. And you never hear, especially within law enforcement, talking about those issues. They find money for a lot of stuff, but
I would say that substance abuse issues became a law enforcement problem when suddenly we closed a lot of our institutions that dealt with those things, mental institutions and so on and so forth, and then put those people out on the streets where suddenly they become an issue of law enforcement to deal with. And I think we ask law enforcement to do too much. This requires right. You got to be a social worker, and you got to be a doctor, and you got to be a therapist, and you know what I mean. But you got to be a crime fighter. But there's all these things that you have to do that aren't necessarily geared towards criminal justice.
Right. But if they're going to be a partner, though, and collaborative, they have to shift their thinking in terms of that are more than just lock. It's no more than about locking people up.
It can't be as simple as that. The solution isn't as simple as incarcerating people.
Exactly.
That doesn't solve problems. All that does is we just incarcerate more people.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That's part of what has brought us to where we are.
Right. So, Ms. Fields, did you have something you want to say about this?
Well, I think it's a good segue so that your audience knows at the Justice and Resource Fair, we do see it hand in hand.
Okay.
Hence the Resource Fair. So we do have informational booths for access to health care. So we do have family health centers that will give free screenings and also assist with our participants if they need to apply for Covered California so that they can have health coverage, so they can start the counseling or have a referral. Where can I get the substance abuse counseling that I need so that I'm not doing these other things? And a lot of times it is access.
Right.
And it's also not just for that person that was incarcerated. They may have a family and they're looking out for their family. So who else are we inviting to the table?
Right.
There's family health centers, 211. 211 has a plethora of information, but a lot of people still don't know how do I access these resources in my community that's in my neighborhood, because maybe they don't have the marketing and PR dollars to do that. So events like this of bringing everyone together so that we can get the prevention and intervention services will be at the San Diego Prop 47 Justice and Resource Fair. Again, that's next Saturday, August 20th at Second Chance. And with Second Chance, they also have a lot of programs for youth and adults. So now this is a way for us. They have sponsored our venue, and now we're able to access their programs and services in the community. So it's a great partnership and collaboration to move this forward and make a positive impact in our community.
And here's another question for you, Ms. Fields, is, under Prop 47, people are no longer sentenced to a lengthy multi-year sentence as we've just heard for a single petty offense, and no longer carry lifelong barriers to success that accompany a felony conviction. Do you see that as a good thing or a bad thing? And I guess that ties into the clinic and why you're having the clinic and why this is so important.
Yes, for a number of things. Again, people are usually poverty-stricken with this the substance abuse and trying to make it for their family, so therefore they steal and fend for them and their family. So having this resource fair is that we were able to supply them with information and people that they can contact directly. Whereas other times you just see a flyer somewhere posted and you get a phone number and then you go through voicemails but this is a personal connection. So this is a way, again, that we can make the original social media that we're able to connect directly with this population and also just serve the person and their families and provide a venue for us to connect.
Right. And I know that, when you look at an individual that has been convicted of a felony for one of these, where they can have that felony reduced to a misdemeanor.
That helps with housing. That helps with employment. That helps with in getting on the list with Section 8. There's people that will answer those questions because of those priors. and at a felony level, you are discount, or you're not available to, or you cannot avail of those services. But with the reduction,
for college.
yeah, financial aid for college, and we do have someone that will be speaking on that subject, Beto Vasquez, who has been on our organizing committee, will be outreaching to this population and say, if you do want a career in XYZ, we have these certificate programs at ECC. If you'd like to pursue a college education like he did,
Right.
he will be sharing his testimony, and more importantly, how to get into school and pay for it
Right.
for free, or at least at a reduced cost. So again, having these resources available to you because of the reclassification is so important to impact their quality of life.
Right, right. So, Sergeant Kelso, you know, and I know this is probably a tough question, and you're not going to be able to solve it right here, but the thing that I'm wondering, that I know I hear Chief Zimmerman say is, you know, when it comes to Prop 47, now they have to write all these citations for people, and they just go on to commit another crime, and they're going to commit another crime, and going to commit another crime. So I guess this is a twofold question. The first one is what is the best approach, writing a ticket or taking them to jail, number one? And number two, why aren't there any other avenues to deal with this issue in regards to law enforcement, like being able to maybe arrest them and take them to a treatment program and so on?
Wow.
And like I said,
That's an interesting question. You know, understanding one, I mean, I don't speak for Chief Zimmerman.
Right.
You know, she speaks for herself for the department.
Absolutely.
You know, I speak for myself for the Black Police Officers Association. Understanding that, you know, reoffending is a concern for law enforcement. It should be. And it's not only a concern for law enforcement, but it's a concern for crime victims.
Right.
Because when we have people that are out there reoffending, those victims bear the brunt of that. So as a law enforcement person, we have to deal with that. So that's a valid concern she has for that.
Let me just interject here. A lot of times, the only person that these people are hurting themselves because they're just doing drugs, and they might have drugs on them, and they write them these citations. I know petty theft and so on, but I'm talking about I think the citations that they're writing are dealing with drugs. I think and they said it's about 80% of these crimes are drug related.
Right. But we got to be careful that we don't pigeonhole all this into one box. There's going to be a range of crimes that are related to reoffending and to drug abuse, all the way from, you know, at the farthest extreme murder to petty level stuff. And we got to be real careful that we don't suddenly start to marginalize and narrow the scope of what happens from that. But understanding the citation process, you have to understand that police officers you know, I'm speaking in really general terms. There aren't enough of them out there, and everyone calls for their problems. And I don't care what your problem is. From probably you're having an argument with somebody in your house, your kid is missing, your cat is stuck. You get what I'm saying? I mean, everybody's entry to the criminal justice system is through calling 911 or calling the San Diego Police Department. So an officer has to show up and be prepared to resolve an issue quickly. All right, there isn't enough of it. I mean, it would be nice if you could call an officer and they could show up and they had all the resources and all the power and all the availability to solve your problem to its finality, so that it was no longer an issue. But that's not how things work. Right? It's a temporary solution. Officers show up looking for a temporary fix. What can I do to solve this problem for this caller right here, right now, today? It's not going to solve it permanently.
Right.
But it's going to solve it today. That's really all they can impact.
Right.
So that's what that citation does not do, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
By putting someone in jail, all right, I satisfy the person that called that this person was held accountable for what they did to me, how they victimized me. That citation doesn't do that, unfortunately.
Right.
And you would believe that eventually, you know, there's a day in court where there's some sort of penalty lobbied against the reoffender. But maybe Michael can speak better to the impacts of that. Yet I don't really think we've had enough time to really develop any sort of sense of what the impact is of Prop 47 other than what we see initially. And we have to be really careful that we don't overestimate the results we see initially and then try to spread that out, over time
Right.
to draw any sort of correlation. We just don't know yet. That's my thought anyway.
So, Mr. Begovich, what is that, the ultimate accountability in the sense of an individual that is given a citation or whatever, and then when they go to court and so on, do they assign them drug court or some type of treatment, or what's going on within the system?
The problem that the sergeant speaks about, that does exist with some individuals. There's no doubt. And part of that problem is if their low-level theft-related behavior is fueled by a combination of substance abuse and mental illness, right now we don't have enough facilities in the community, not like locked psychiatric facilities, but things like board and cares, residential drug treatment.
Right.
If we have more of those places where those people would go as a condition of probation, that's what we need. And the money, hopefully, from Prop 47 that is in effect diverted from keeping more people in prison, that money goes into some of this
Right.
public health treatment. That will give more options for the court, ultimately. So that's, what we're hoping for. If you're fighting a war, you need ammo.
Right. Now, is this month is the time where money's supposed to be allocated throughout California under Prop 47, or when?
It's this year.
This year.
So, it's kind of wait and see what we can do.
So do we know how much money San Diego would be getting? Because I heard it wasn't that much.
I don't know. I mean, I can tell you that in our office, we have some substance abuse assessors, and we have clients begging for residential drug treatment. It's a supply and demand problem. We don't have enough facilities to have people that want to go into those places available. We just don't have the bed space. That's a problem.
I think in theory, too, the thought was behind the initiative that we would save estimated $150 million annually. That's statewide, right? So when you really start to, $150 million is actually not a lot of money at all.
When you look at 58
when you talk
counties.
about the entire state.
Yeah. So, Mr. Kelso, how do we give law enforcement more options than to arrest?
Well, I think Michael touched on that, with what he said, in that we need to give more options to the court, all right? Because more options to the court eventually turns into more options for officers. Right now, the only options for officers are jail or citation. That's really the only options we have.
Right.
And believe it or not, those are the fastest, quickest, most expedient options that an officer has on the street to be able to deal with problems.
Right. And Mr. Begovich, how do we tap into the local community correction realignment funding? Can we, as far as for this, Prop 47?
Those are two different revenue streams. The AB 109 stuff, the money is going in already.
Right.
And it has been there for a while. And there are people that are on the local level of parole, for example, just to keep the terminology simple. There's a lot more services for them.
Wow.
If those clients are willing, for the job assistance, if those clients are willing, for the drug rehab, it's really good. When I'm down at the jails talking to clients, I chat with the people who are in the waiting room, and those, in effect, are those governmental substance abuse assessors, and the people are going right to them, and boom, they're taking them right into rehab.
Wow.
See, that's the kind of stuff that really, really helps. And the data, the parole data shows that. Somebody that goes right out of custody that's got a drug problem and does 6 months in sober living, the chance for them drops significantly to, be a repeat customer, so to speak.
Right. Now, what is the deadline to file a petition for Prop 47?
Thank you for that question. It would be November 5th of 2017. So it's 3 years after the law came in, but the statute says it can be extended for good cause.
Okay.
And it doesn't say what good cause is.
Right.
But right now, I have never seen, I've been doing this for 28 years, I have never seen anything in the law where there is so much uncertainty in the case law. The California Supreme Court has one opinion published on Prop 47, but the amount of opinions that are up on review to the Supreme Court, that means we're sort of in limbo, it is unprecedented from my experience. So that good cause, it's going to be continued.
Gotcha.
And our office, kind of how we're doing it is, when in doubt, we're going to file. Okay. We're going to file.
Cool. So, I know we're running out of time. I only have a couple of minutes left. So I want to make sure that if there's anything that has been left out or you want to add, you can at this time. Sergeant Kelso?
At some point, when we start talking about criminal justice reform and really making substantive change in how we do this, we really got to talk about the corporatism of crime. We really got to talk about how crime has become a commodity traded on Wall Street and what that impact is, because that encourages more arrest.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Thank you for that. Mr. Bevel, please.
Just another plug. Get your second chance at Second Chance. So that's 6 days from now, this Saturday, August 20th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the great facility. Our hosts are going to be Second Chance. That's located at 6145 Imperial Avenue in San Diego. Please come out. We're going to be there along with people from the private bar to help you, to screen you. We're going to be talking about Prop 47, possible expunging your criminal record. So come out.
Thank you. Ms. Fields.
Of course, again, we want to extend the invitation. It is Saturday, August 20th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We will provide free legal services and a community resource fair that includes education and training resources. We have the building trades there offering apprenticeship programs, free health screenings with CTE and family health centers, get help with your traffic tickets, traffic amnesty. There will be free childcare in the kids zone, mental health and rehab services, housing rights, a lot of information, all free to the public. If you want more information, you can go to the aclusandiego.org/Prop 47 or call 619-232-2121. 619-232-2121. And of course, you can find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SDACLU. So thank you, Bishop Bowser, for this opportunity and sharing this platform with Sergeant Kelso and with Michael. It is a lot of information and education that needs to continue even after August 20th. So we look forward to possibly collaborating again and sharing the information in the community.
Absolutely. So we want to thank each of you for being our guest today, and this the end of the show. I want you to tune back in next Sunday at 9 o'clock a.m. on KBLKradio.com to listen to What's Happening Now. Thank you for tuning in, and God bless you.